Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of SHAC for this municipal year. I've got to open the meeting and call for nominations for a chair for SHAC for 1 year. The nominations must be proposed and seconded by a member of the committee or their substitute. Can I have any nominations?
I propose Mr. Crowley, please. Chair.
And the seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay. Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Okay. And the newly, I'm sorry.
What to vote on?
And no objections either. Are there any objections? No. Okay, then we nominate Chris to be the chair for this chat for this year.
Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, happy to continue as chair. Thanks for that. You're getting some feedback there, I see. So on that basis, we'll start the meeting. If I can call for appointment of vice chair, I'd like to nominate Paul as vice chair to continue in his role. So if we can have a seconder, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other nominations or objections to that? No. Carried then. Thank you. And that brings us on then to co-opted members, of which we have 2. David and Chris. Lindsay, do you want to say anything about that?
No, they just need to be proposed and seconded again, so they can be nominated.
Okay.
Happy to. I'll propose that David Ling and Chris Ronson Collison remain as co-opted members of SHAC.
Happy second.
Okay, that's it.
Content with that. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, did you want to talk about the membership? Did you want to talk about we can do. There's organisations that haven't got a member, and I wondered if you wanted me to write to those to ask if they wanted to send a representative to this meeting.
Yeah, we talked about widening the membership if we can to include IHBC and other organisations. You just want to ask the other
Derbyshire Historic Buildings Trust, Historic Buildings and Places, that replaced the Ancient Monument Society, the Institute of Historic Building Conservation, and the 20th Century Society, C20.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
There may be others.
Victorian Society.
That's
Because I know he's got Georgian group on his as well. So
that was my mistake.
Okay.
Just on the name plate.
Okay.
I put you both as a Georgian, and
Yeah, we thought you had the Victorian and the Georgian.
yes,
Between you.
no, that's fine.
So if you think about this, let us know by all means. The intention is that Lindsay will kindly write to these organisations and see if they want to nominate a representative.
Chair,
Well, that's a good point.
World Heritage Partnership.
Collison is the advisory committee.
I'm representing this body on that, but whether that body wants to be represented.
I think if we could get confirmation from them that you can represent them on this committee, that would be helpful.
Dual representation.
Seems sensible.
You're on the planning panel.
Yeah. It might be content just to continue to comment on.
Yeah. Okay. So should we write to them or not then, or do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a contact.
Okay, that would be great. And I wondered also if I should write out to the organisations you represent just to tidy it up for housekeeping purposes, so that they can confirm that you're representing your organisation.
That's what David and I, even though the table labels, although I think that one's not right anyway, indicate other organisations. We've just been reappointed as co-opted members. In our case, but
yes,
but whether
you're happy for me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
put that out?
that's
I'll,
fine.
I'll draft the letter up for you to.
No, absolutely, yeah. You
It's
can-
just for housekeeping, it's just so it's there for the records.
Yeah.
Anyone wants to square.
And say, we can do that.
How long if you're alone now? You can get down to your proper business.
Indeed. Okay, thank you very much. Apologies then, I think I've got an apology from Ian Goodwin, who's, Max is not coming, and Chris Wardle too.
Yeah, that's right.
Both Ian and Chris have provided some comments in relation to at least some of the schemes before us. I remember to cover those too. Late items, I don't have any, but I do know that the Middleton House is not being considered now in terms of the cleaning. That's not happening. Do you want to explain why, Chloe?
Can do. The application, the case officer already has the information necessary to make a decision on it. As you can remember, cleaning a building has already been before, subsequently refused. This was a resubmission, so the case officer is minded to go forward and refuse on the same grounds.
Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying. Declarations of interest, are there any to any of these projects? No, thank you. Okay, so let's turn to the minutes of the previous meeting. I trust you've all had the chance to go through those and have a review. I wasn't at that meeting, but if we could have a proposer just to confirm they're a true record of the meeting in a second, please. Thanks very much. You've also got a list of items determined since the last meeting. Not suggesting there's a discussion about those, but they're there for interest and information.
Can I just not ask about Middleton House? I noticed that application for liquidation
Was refused.
was refused. I just wondered why that was.
It wasn't on heritage grounds, it was on other grounds.
Yeah.
Privacy and overlooking, I think. And
Just to confirm, it was for other reasons. It has been a new application. It's been submitted for that, which will come next time.
so it may come back, but as you say, we didn't object at the time. Interest in that. Likewise, you've seen the applications that are not being considered. Again, they're there for information, really. So that takes us on then to the applications that we are considering this afternoon. And we're going to start with 43A Saturday. If you would please.
So this one will be familiar to you, because a previous iteration was before you last October, I believe, October 13th. So this is the building to the rear of 43 Saddlegate, 43A, as a location. This is the existing plans you've seen online. She commented on, and Conservation and Heritage Advisory Committee felt that this was an insensitive proposal. It didn't show enough how the proposal related to its sensitive context, building up too tall and seemed to dominate the hierarchy of the building. Heritage statement and heritage impact assessment needed to be dealt with comprehensively and identify what was important. Materials suggested were inappropriate. UPVC windows and metal cladding to roof and walls, and there was a complete absence of justification for the proposal. So, so they've come back on something that was exhibited to me by the conservation. In terms of the layout. It's now agreed with the existing buildings with the extension on the top. So it's 2 points. So the materials proposed are sort of plain tile roof, white render, and timber windows. And what was recently talked this afternoon to the elevation, and just to confirm that they have provided that. So it's and the proposed are shown on front elevation. Obviously, that's the level of detail that
Okay, thanks, Chloe. So whereas before, I mean, it was bigger and it was a demolition and new build, notwithstanding the fact that there was a structural report at the time that said the building was not capable of conversion. The proposal now appears to be converted and extend slightly on the top floor, so the roof gets a little higher. Eaves goes up a little bit, as you can see there. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's certainly improved on the previous scheme. Scale. I didn't quite see the elevation that was just shown about, but I'm not sure whether I just spotted a couple of little windows.
Do you want to flash back to that?
On the back, which I was just interested in, because I think currently it's a balanced rear elevation, so I'm not quite sure what the implications of that are. Yes, thank you. So that's just one query I've got. I remain concerned about the external space really being so limited in relation to what are now two 4-bedroom properties. I'm not sure what the intended occupant nature of them would be really. I should imagine it would be a combination of single people rather than family accommodation in that sort of location, and that possibly impacts on that issue, the amount of external space, but there's, kind of plenty of accommodation for the bike racks and things. But the external space is not only limited in size, but it's going to be fairly attractive in use, because of the so they rather gloomy. So that's sort of just a query in my mind.
Yeah, the implication appears to be a shared external space for the two dwellings, which I guess will kind of HR.
And then, I'm not sure precisely what detail here in relation to the surrounding building. Sure, they can be made. So it's come some distance, I think, in the right direction from the previous iteration that we saw.
Just to confirm, it's in their amended statement offering high-end residential co-living space. Correct.
I suppose that really is more of a planning issue, the planning officer to sort of address. But I think in terms of the development as we see it, in terms of impact on heritage aspects, I think it's a marked improvement on what we proposed previously. The external materials are still it's rendered as existing, and I think it's going to be rendered again. So there's a repeat. I think it's a distinct improvement. They're still not showing the relationship back to the existing rear facade of Saddlegate, but there are photographs in there that give you a better indication, and certainly the historic building report has been prepared. It was quite well done. I've got no personal objection.
Could I ask, I know this building isn't listed, Chloe, but how does it fit in relation to the other buildings on Saddlegate with listed buildings?
Just going back. So it just sits directly to the rear. And obviously along the Strand, there's a number of listed buildings which would look at it. The photograph bottom right is viewed from the yard, which is accessed from St James's Street and then to Saddlegate. And so that's a vantage point, the main vantage point of this building. And obviously there are a number of listed buildings along Saddlegate.
And I know it's going to be sort of invisible, but the picture we're seeing there, is there going to be the added story and dormers above that?
You'll certainly see, I'm not sure it's higher than that, really, isn't it? So you'll certainly see the dormers when you have that view.
So the blue dotted line on this elevation bottom up in the middle shows the existing ridge line and eave line. As you can see, the ridge height is being extended higher, and so yes, there's going to be some proposed remodelling, because at the moment you see the windows, don't you, about this location on that photograph. So the proposal is to increase that.
To what extent do we wish to keep the character of that building? Because all the fenestration will be altered. I know it's not listed, but to what extent do we need to consider the
Do you want to go back to that photograph again?
character?
So those dormers will effectively start at the eaves, so they will sit above what is currently the roof. Yeah.
So what we're going to get is something totally new in effect.
I think what quite clearly there, that's a kind of workshop commercial building, and you're going. What's promised is something very domestic looking. So you're quite right. So
the character will change.
The character will change, I think, and the dormers are making a big contribution to that change in character and domesticity, if you like. And we haven't sought to try and replicate the character of the commercial buildings. That's for sure.
Haven't the windows been altered?
It's been much shorter.
The report said that the windows have been significantly altered over various periods of time, a lot of which was 20th century.
So I don't think there's any point in trying to hark back to some mythical past. What we need, I think, is a nice looking building that's not going to be an eyesore as this one is. So on that basis, I would have an objection.
Any further comments?
No.
Okay, so that's no objection. Chloe, it'd be nice to see a bit more finesse in terms of the detailing of elements of the building as it comes forward.
Yeah, I think detail
It's kind of
conditions, but I'm going to leave that to your expertise.
Okay. I do apologise to Councillor Smale. I wanted to welcome you to
That's no problem.
the committee. I forgot to do that. I was so keen to get things underway. But
No, there's no
thank you for
problem.
joining, and
I'm looking forward to this year. I did say to you earlier and to the rest of the group, I'll probably be doing a lot of listening today, just to get a feel for what the committee is like going forward.
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it.
thank you very much. Okay, Chloe, shall we move on to the next one, please? Darley Abbey Mules.
Yes. So, single story extension to a commercial unit proposed. Darley Abbey Mills. It's actually, you can see, you've seen it on the website previous prior to this meeting. It's, the area that we're talking about is this area here. Seeing that declaration, it's this block here. So been out and taking some photographs, and there's sort of a tin shed, brick construction quite early within this sort of courtyard area. It's actually attached to by a number of different buildings. The grade 2 star, which is that one, and the grade 2. So on this one, I think, so it can be classed as part of the listing, either of being attached to one or being part of the curtilage of one of the large mill buildings. So the proposal is just an area of view, just to give you context of where it is on site. It's that. So here's the existing proposal in terms of the extension that's proposed. Some elevation. There's the new that we'll look at to review the photograph that I've just shown you in terms of that. So the proposal is to install a new steel beam and then new solid wall construction. As with red bricks to the elevation along the steel security shutter and security personnel door. So in the existing, just for clarity, existing damaged gutters are removed. Some extension to a commercial unit.
Okay, thanks, Chloe. Small extension to a commercial unit in the existing courtyard, which is pretty well tucked away. And we do have quite a comprehensive heritage assessment, which is helpful to explain the significance and the potential impact. And there is a sense that it could be reversible, although it is built, it's proposed as a brick built extension. So comments, please. Chris?
Yeah, I was very pleased to see more than adequate heritage statement supporting, which we don't always get. So that was good, and I agree with your description. Yeah, that this is a site that's fairly concealed. Which was the layout, the whole site. So it's limited. So visually, it's not great concern, but I'd not got any particular problem with the nature of the proposal, make it a more usable part of the site, which in itself is a positive aspect of it. So I no objection.
So that, any other comments?
Objections? No, Chair, I think actually, as you said, it is reversible. Probably visually a link to the building set at the back. I think one of the overriding factors here is that you've got a business operating from there in an area which thrives with small businesses. If you start to restrict that too much, you're going to make that building into a museum piece, and that's what we don't want. It's got to remain active So I've got no objection.
Just one quick question from a sort of lay point of view. Would there be any risk to the listed building in the construction, you know, in the, you know, by virtue of the actual
It's a good point, but I think, yeah, as part of the conditions, I think perhaps you'd want to see that there's no harm to the existing building, so independent structure. Not relying on the existing building. Brick elements certainly for support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy then, so no objection, Chloe, on the basis that we have some assurances that the construction method won't have an adverse impact on fabric, etc. So again, a bit more detail really would be helpful.
The response, the board, there's no objection subject to constructions in the independent structure.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Takes us on to 24 Saddlegate.
Or Saddlegate, which is great for this with the city centre conservation area. Proposals are for the change of use, short business and service to 2 residential units, together with the installation of the new entrance door to the front elevation. So the accompanying is the building application, which are to do with the associated alterations to the building. So this is the building. I visited, and some works have already been undertaken. So these are the existing. As you can see, there's been quite a lot undertaken already, which is unauthorised. Change of ownership in January, I understand. And, from the builder, it was confirmed that some works had been undertaken before. So here are some general photographs to show new floors coming into the building, and a new staircase, and the removal of a wider staircase, removal chimney of a little bit of windows. You can see there are slight errors on the existing, on the proposed plans, because there are chimney breasts which they propose to remove, and obviously they're currently still in situ, so there's one. Another thing to point out is that this is the first floor, this is ground floor. So you'll notice that the floor structure has gone in higher than the original one on the ground floor. Looking at the second floor, this floor structure, second floor, this is photograph is being taken on the first floor. It's actually been lowered, so you can see it's where the original floor on the you can see between the greater new floor level. Obviously, these are so. Since you see the information online, there has been some further amended plans that have been submitted to clarify some of the details. Not everything has been clarified. As you can see, the existing plans are on the top and the proposed plans are to the bottom. It will show the removal of the chimney breast, which we've just seen photographs of. And the staircase runs alongside it, so I don't think that's quite right. And also in the place on the second floor where you saw the grate hovering in midair, the stairs have actually been accommodated alongside it. That one sadly looks as if it has been removed. So on the first and second floor, there's also proposal. Part of the shop front, and it's some subdivision to functions. So this section has been provided to show previous existing location of the floor and the proposed floors being undertaken. And then to the front, there's a proposal to some existing seen online. They're proposing new to such windows, slim double glazed units, adding a cornice along the top of the fascia to try and reduce the depth of it, and independent access to the floors to the shop front. And to the rear elevation, proposals seem to suggest that they're looking at reopening the ground floor, blocked with some details submitted. And extracts and internal timber doors. To add, there has been a structural engineer's report submitted along with this information just today, just to provide to a degree justification to because when it's purchase this building, part of the floors were missing. So just to clarify. So, yeah, it's okay for someone.
Yeah, thank you. So just to sort of re-summarise, so externally changes to create the new entrance in the shop front for the units above, and then looks like an improvement to the sort of window arrangement to replace sort of modern windows. Something more appropriate that sits well with everything else up and down in the immediate vicinity. The problematic thing here is all the significant works that have already happened inside the building. So there doesn't seem to be any justification for, well, you talk about replacing the floors, but the issue here is they've not put the floors back in the same place. So there's been a fundamental change to the arrangement there. You can see what that means then. So it sort of isolates fireplaces and makes them kind of devoid of context, and window sills become much higher than they once were. And so there's lots of things that have happened. And whilst there's a comprehensive heritage assessment, it's full of photographs of all this work that's already been done and lots of conjecture about what was there before, and nobody knows. So I think it's difficult, and we, as a committee, we certainly shouldn't be endorsing unauthorised works that proceeded at a pace without any consent. I mean, it is a listed building after all. So comments, please.
Could I just ask, relation to the planning section of it, is obviously there's breaches there. Is there any? I mean, you've got to forgive me. This is obviously quite new to me, and planning is not my first thing to call. But from what I do know, obviously we have, obviously the planning breaches and investigations going on. Is that taken place? And
we knew about this with the applications of it. So planning application. We need a listed building.
No listed building application.
There wasn't a listed building application when it came in, and then subsequently we got one. So that was the first thing, and because obviously it would have been better for people to come forward and highlight any issues quickly and straight away, direct, and then we can help them go through the correct processes. Because obviously now we find out.
Yes.
There is a process.
The thing is, for me, from just looking at this with a fresh pair of eyes, it's quite frustrating because I'm a big believer that we have got a lot of vacant properties, especially upstairs, vacant space, which we could have for inner city living. And I'm a big fan of the inner city living that we desperately need in this city. And there's a great opportunity for a lot of work to be undertaken to do that. But for me, this is kind of like the one step too far ahead, that they've done all for unauthorised work. And my biggest concern is that if the precedence is taken once, how many other properties or owners are going to do the same? And then before you know it, we're in a situation where we're going to be unable to contain the situation of people just running without consequence of doing any works on some of these graded buildings.
You're absolutely right. The consequences of doing this type of work is quite profound. People need to understand what the implications of listed building, and this committee tries to explain that to applicants, and certainly Chloe in her job does that time and time again. But unfortunately, some people think we can just ignore that. Sometimes it's done with the best of intentions. The fact of the matter is, permission is needed, and it needs to come before at least a qualified officer or this committee to be explained why there is.
It's just a shame it's come this way, because I really like the idea of converting some of these spaces. And
oh yeah,
I'm sure we all
living and living over the shop, as it were.
Yeah.
But I think the situation here is that Chloe, obviously you've seen online her report. Some of the points in that report have been answered in a very limited way. I think what we need to be saying is more answers and more detail is required on this to show justification why they've done this. The engineer has given some justification as to why the floors have been replaced. We all know why they've been put in a different position, because it changes the character of that building significantly. So I think we need to ask the officer to obtain more information and bring that information back to us in a readable and understandable form.
The work stopped for the moment.
It's not taken that in writing, and we realised how serious it is, because it was under the Act. It's for offence to undertake unauthorised works to a listed building.
Yes, I think perhaps a strong letter saying that under these circumstances, enforcement action, and it is a criminal offence.
And carrying a substantial fine.
Indeed, yeah. So,
Chair, may I suggest that we refuse this application, and with a direction that we don't reconsider it until appropriate enforcement actions are taken. Once that procedure has taken place, then we can perhaps put it in again. But I think a message does need to be sent out that unauthorised works should be tolerated.
Yeah.
Chair, could I just ask one, Chloe? You said this, just for ease of my mind, I'm trying to remember what you said at the beginning. So this property has had a change of ownership and the works have changed from ownership. So since this application has come in under the new owner, has any works been committed since this new owner's took this property on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though to the new owner, so anything that's unauthorised.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was previous, and obviously the owner, the new owner was trying to correct the wrong of the previous owner by trying. Obviously, clearly works have been happening since.
It's absolutely clear. Pointed out.
I think it would be good to paint a picture just to find out how we've, like we said, to where we've got where we are, so it just gives us a clearer picture.
But I don't think it's a question of ignorance either. purchase process.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure that the new owner would have, probably the previous owner as well, would have been advised.
they would have been.
It was a listed building, but anything to do requires.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just,
Yeah.
so do we have
Yeah.
an insurance that no other action, no other work is going to take place that will affect features of the?
So we've got writing saying that they're not undertaking, they've stopped work and they're not undertaking anything further until things have gone through the process.
Just on this point, publicity. So there are quite a lot of actors involved in this. You know, we sort of focus on the but there are people taking the work. There are people designing the work. There are people quantifying the work. You know, so there are quite a lot of professional people will be involved. So it's not just the owner. You know, it's involved. Work has been undertaken by someone, presumably not this. So there are quite a lot of parties involved. So in terms of publicity, you know, I think we need to be making this known in the public, so that all those participants, you know, can have it brought to their attention. There are requirements and restrictions on this going on, and there are consequences, you know. So if this does result in this needs to be given some publicity, in my view, so that it would deter other people thinking, oh well, we can just ignore the rule.
That's my biggest concern in all of this, is this running riot for our city. You know, unauthorised works. It just doesn't sit right with me at all.
No, okay, I think that's clear. Any other comments? To sum up then, I think we're objecting in the strongest terms. We're keen to be assured that the enforcement process is working and that work has indeed stopped, and that they need to regroup, take stock, come back with some sense of how the work will be rectified to an acceptable standard, with some clarity on what the significance of this building is as a heritage asset. As I say, the heritage statement, that the author of that's been unable to give us a clear picture. Okay, is that clear? Thank you. As I said, we're not going to discuss the house, which is on the agenda, so that takes us on to the last item on the agenda, St Matthew's House.
Sure you're all familiar with St Matthew's House on Brick Road, which is a Grade 2 star listed building in the conservation area site. It's a former 1926 schoolhouse. Really interesting building. There's some late 19th century plans showing headmaster's house at one end, classrooms in the middle, and mistress's house at the other end. Quite interesting to see the original layouts. So you will see the sense of significance, and obviously there's a building technology. General in terms of development that's occurred on the site. So in terms of the elevations, there's been sort of a good look at the elevations and seen that there are some proposed repairs being undertaken. So I need some pointing works. Just to clarify, there's no difference in those proposed And then lastly, the change of use for offices, it's actually to 5 units, not 6. And the description has now been changed. So the conversion is now to 5 residential apartments and associated works. So photographs, some of which we have seen, some I've taken when on site. So these are some generals of the ground floor. So there is a staircase that returns, and part of the photo you will see on the plan shortly is to reconfigure these so they illustrate these really see the top bar. You can see it's quite a very heavy cornice, and you can see on the whole where there is new wall construction. Was subject to this relatively open. There's also very fine details such as clocks and grills. A lot of fine details. So this is the first floor, which shows sort of the level of detail and proposing this to remove this from the series. So once again, we've got existing plan, top left, on proposed plan, bottom right is grey. So proposal is this part to divide off what was the headmaster's house into a 2-storey house. This one end. Should just mention headmistress's house at the end has already been divided off and has been sold a long time ago, so that is already a separate plan. And then the proposal is to have 2 units either side of this particular wall with a bedroom pod either side, living rooms and kitchen accommodation, with ensuite and bathrooms to the rear later. Some more photographs just showing you. There is replicated cornice in some locations and some very nice fonts, as you've seen. To the first floor, obviously there is quite a lot of subdivision on the first floor already. There's a lot of this is supposed to be two bathrooms for once again, the bathroom ensuite bedrooms with things that are supposed to be height rather than pods. Full information on drainage rooms. Some rooms. Always there's specifics, I believe, on fire, compartmentalisation, fire resistance, and sand insulation, and solidity.
Okay, thanks, Chloe. Just for the information, the owner developer did submit with their proposal, guess, sort of evidence or at least an account of their efforts to try and market the building for ongoing commercial use without success. So they've certainly seemingly tried to do that, and they haven't managed to do that. So that's another reason they're looking at this conversion to residential. So it's the house to the left, if you like, and then four apartments. Historic England have objected, you might have seen that too, and they're concerned, notwithstanding the fact that there has been quite a lot of subdivision. It's sort of 20th century subdivision. They're concerned that this proposal will sort of permanent subdivision, and they're very concerned about that. For the grade 2-star listed building, some large spaces at the ground, and principally at the first floor. So that's a bit of background. Comments, please.
Yep.
Wants to go first?
I think the idea is going to be brilliant for this building,
Yeah.
to convert it to residential. But I tend to agree with Historic England, that it's an overly developed, it's just going to be overly developed for the reading of the school, grade 2 star listed. It would not read as a school. So I tend to agree with Historic England that it's over intensive development. If it was 2 plus the house, I think that would be slightly different, but I think 5 in total is probably too much.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
And yes, I tend to agree. I think it's I have a particular concern because the clock, it's a rather unusual clock. It has 3 faces. If I remember correctly, there's a face in the boys' classroom. There's a face. Is this right? My memory says facing the girls' classroom. And there's also
different times on each.
On the outside. And I don't know if you've been up that little staircase. It's very, very difficult. It's a really tiny space. The only way to wind the clock is to go up that little staircase. I know because someone in the younger society who had the responsibility of doing it, luckily a small gentleman managed to get up there. So as a rather important element to this building, if it's subdivided like this, who's going to look after it? Oh, it's just not particular. Yeah, it's a good question.
It might be one that we can't answer here.
No, I'm not. I pose that as a sort of rhetorical question.
But that is part right, it was probably designated 2 star as well, so it's part of the building.
Feature of this
Yeah.
building. That's the wrong.
Yeah, I think the report that's been prepared to accompany this is quite comprehensive, and they do emphasise all the elements that are being retained, of which there is a wealth of that detail.
Yes, I didn't see anything to say that they're going to destroy this park.
No.
But the thing is, it's a mechanism.
You need to get that access. And,
You know.
I'm sure that could be overcome with some sort of management agreement between properties. I agree with what you say, Carol, about the intensity of the development. Although I think the fact that there are bedroom pods on the ground of a higher ceiling height actually helps preserve that space as a schoolroom space. It's the first floor, I think, where the main issue exists, and that is that central apartment where you've got 2 bedrooms in there. Now, I think if one of those bedrooms goes, or if it's reconfigured such that you haven't got 2 bathrooms, an ensuite bathroom, I think the left-hand side of that apartment could be opened up and actually achieve what Historic England and what you just said. So I think that's probably the way forward. I would think, but it's the fact that this building has been now standing, because I looked at it probably 3 years ago, maybe a bit longer than that, when the previous owners moved out. So it's been standing around. It needs a new use, otherwise it's going to fall into disrepair and the clock. Yeah.
Just picking up from the point that Paul left off, I think it's right that the achievement of reliable use is the most important thing here. And sure, there could be some compromise in terms of, following what Historic England. Paul suggestions sound quite sensible. I mean, I listed out here that there are a lot of positives about And that was sort of, you know, the reuse of the grills, those ceiling grills, as part of the heating system. Very positively reinstating the wall, reinstating the stair, and that archway, opening the installation railings, you know, so outside. Lots of welcome aspects to the proposal. Inside that overall positive of being brought back into use, you know. Reserves of building. Yeah, but I wouldn't want to throw the whole of the thing out because of one or two reasons. To see some element of confidence and, you know, take a lot of positives. If it just means, I think I'm with Paul on the you know, the pots issue. Really, if you can reveal the finery of the ceiling, take that through use of a pot. We've accepted that in quite a lot of instances, really, and so yeah, just you know, I'd like to see perhaps the officers talk to more. I don't think it's that far away from being a possible mission. You know, I think that's what I'm saying. Really. So perhaps need to think about all those positive aspects. But as for the clock, very interesting point, David. I suppose there is no obligation on anybody to wind the clock. And if it's retained in its condition, then that's all there is to it, really.
Well, I doubt if it's been around recently.
No, but you know, obviously it doesn't want to be damaged or lost in any. That's probably as far as we can go in terms of conservation legislation and so on.
Yeah.
But it's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? I'm just trying to read the room then. So, I mean, there's some positives here that are bringing it back into use. And the use in principle seems to be fine. But there are still some concerns about intensification of the presentation.
The bedrooms in. Sort of, that's its middle unit.
They invade the space. Think for that building.
So it feels like it's an objection subject to, you know, on the basis that these items are addressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
As opposed to giving it support with caveat that they get that. So I think it's, you know, it's clearly important that Grade 2 start.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to encourage to see the building brought into.
Indeed, yes. So objection, but we, you know, we think there's merit in the scheme.
Yes.
But we think that there's further solution needs to be given to this sense of openness and the trying to sort of grow that a little bit on the intensification, and again, detailed design matters, so that where there is intervention in a large space, one can still get the sense of the bigger space. So the pod out from there, reduction in the number of bedrooms in that middle unit, etc. So objection with those. Just there's further dialogue about those matters. I think there's definitely a good scheme in here.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So thank you very much for taking us through those in terms of the items on the agenda.
Yeah.
No, we've just got to talk about the George Rennie Award.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right with you, Chloe. I'm going to hand over to you and ask you to explain what you think would be the sensible solution at this stage, given the number of, or the very limited number of nominations that we've had. So do you want to just tell us where we are, please?
So, yeah, at the last meeting, we talked about the George Rennie City Heritage Award last year. So these are finished within 2022. So obviously in the meeting, a couple were mentioned as possible nominees. One was the extension of the school adjacent to its and the other was the Wales one was finished. The southern one, which now houses the marketing Swinton, is going to house the gym in due course. And the northern one isn't finished yet. Took a couple of photographs on site just to show you the current state. Progress on site. So North Pepper Tot, you can see obviously there's a staircase being constructed up to the front, which is going to be the restaurant and cafe, etc. There's quite a lot of side that needs just doing some repairs. The glazed box extension to the rear, you can see frames gone in, but it obviously hasn't been fully completed yet. So just wanted to update you on those. There weren't any other nominations that I received since the last meeting, so they are the two. So yeah, so it was just over to you as to what you would like to do.
Yeah, so on that basis, we thought it might be sensible to run the awards in the next spring and do a kind of joint pick up this year, pick up the 2 years, because obviously things have been difficult in the pandemic times, and we haven't had the applications that we thought we might receive. A lot of activity stopped and things haven't progressed in the way that we all hoped. So we thought rather than try and soldier on and make it all happen for what might end up being one award, better to roll it over to next year. So that's the suggestion. So if you agree with that, that's what that's what we do.
It's not something you've got to do, is it? And,
No, and
it's the circumstances are as you've described. Because previously we've deferred
We've done
years,
that
haven't
before.
we?
We have, yeah.
Years and so on.
And to make it run well, it takes a lot of effort
Yeah.
to set it up and resources. So I think we need to wait and then
Seems good. Seems a sensible approach.
do it next year. So that we'll keep you updated, and the each time we need. That's accepted.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks all. I think at that point, unless there's any burning issues that you want to raise, I'll close the meeting. Thank you, Chloe, once again. Thanks, Lindsay.